Is considered a fairly blue state, but that might not be the case right now because they've got a real battle going on for the governorship race there, where the Democrat Ned Lamont, I should say, is in the battle of his life right now with Republican challenger Bob Stefanowski, a businessman. We did reach out to Mr. Lamont. He was unable to join us this weekend, but hope springs eternal. But Bob Stefanowski with us right now. Sir, good to have you.
Neil, thanks so much for having me on.
All right. Now, depending on the numbers, and we don't like to overly rely on polls, and I'm sure you don't either, but you are within the margin of error here. Now, things could change, things could tighten, things could widen. But it is interesting in a state like Connecticut that is even the case. What's going on?
Yeah, you're talking about angry voters. We've got a lot of angry voters in Connecticut. We've had 8 years of a Democratic governor who's raised taxes continually. We have a $5 billion budget deficit. We're losing on average 80 people from the state every day. People are taxed to death in Connecticut, and I'm running on a platform of lower taxes, cut government spending, and it's resonating. We were 15 points down the day after the primary. Now we're up 2. To your point, in a largely Democratic state, we're very happy with where we are right now.
I do notice you somewhat keep your distance from the president, or am I imagining that?
No, I like the president's economic policy. It shows what a business person can do. I'm a business person. It's the first time I've run for office. Lower taxes, less regulation, cutting government spending. We could use some of that economic policy here in Connecticut.
So do you support the tax cut engineered by Republicans and the president? Because in states like yours, where you're limited how much you can write off, and it's a high-tax state, it could boomerang.
Well, the SALT is tough for Connecticut, but it's just another reason to get this state income tax down.
You're talking about the state and local tax deduction, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we were the fastest growing economy in the entire country before the state income tax was put in 1991. And since then, we're the slowest in economic growth. We're the only state that hasn't recovered the jobs from the recession. And I've got a plan to turn that around, and that's why we're gaining in the polls by the day here.
All right. Nevertheless, there is a concern that in this relatively blue state that Democrats will be able to just gather around enough, whatever the unpopularity of the outgoing governor, Malloy, that they're concerned about the association with Donald Trump. Is that a fair association that you do, as I say, keep your distance, you do, emphasize the things you like in a businessman being president and the tax cuts, what have you, but that could actually hurt you?
Well, President Trump endorsed me the day after the primary. I'm running for governor of Connecticut, and what people care about here is this economy. That's what I've been laser focused on. I can't control what happens in Washington, but I can control getting taxes down, getting companies to come back into Connecticut. We lost General Electric 2 years ago because of the state of this budget, lack of access to a skilled workforce. Connecticut used to be a terrific economy, and I think with the right tax policy, we can bring it back, Neil.
All right. Now, as governor, I mean, you wouldn't be getting into the weeds and what is done in Washington if you were running for the Senate, what have you. But we've already heard from a number of Democrats that if they retake the House, Nancy Pelosi has advocated getting rid of the tax cuts, starting from scratch. Senator Kamala Harris out in California has talked about giving that money to the poor, upwards of $6,000 a year and monthly checks of $500. How do you feel about that approach? Again, it would be different for you being governor, but that approach that many Democrats are taking.
We need to stimulate the economy. I mean, everybody in this state needs a job, whether you're in the inner city or in Greenwich, Connecticut. People want jobs. They want prosperity. And I think by getting taxes down, that's the way we're going to do it. It's not so much about, the other way to do it. We've got to lower taxes. We've got to get business to come back here. And as I said, Connecticut's done it before. We can do it again, but we've had 8 years of horrible economic policy. We've had 2 of the largest tax increases in the history of Connecticut under Dan Malloy, who's the least popular governor in the entire country, and our tax revenues are down. So I've done a lot of work with Art Laffer and Larry Kudlow, and we're going to get taxes lower, and we're going to get the supply going up, and we're going to get wages going up, and we're going to get demand going up.
All right, but a lot of those companies are paying a lot less in corporate taxes on a national basis, and it's still not really translating into jobs and or revenue in Connecticut. What happened?
It's fundamentally bad tax policy. If the state of Connecticut had grown just the same rate as the national economy over the last 6 years, we'd have $12 billion more in tax revenue. I wouldn't be stepping into a $5 billion budget if we had just kept pace with the country. So to me, it shows that we have to cut taxes. We've done the exact opposite under 8 years of this current governor, and tax revenues are down. We are the classic example of the Laffer curve, where we are taxing people to the point they're leaving Connecticut. It has to stop. I've got Democrats coming up to me saying they've never voted Republican in their entire life, but they're doing it this time because they're laser focused on the economy. Ned Lamont has come out and said he's going to continue the policies of the prior governor. He's going to raise taxes. He's going to institute a payroll tax, and people don't want that here. That's why in this state we actually have an amazing chance to flip this governor's spot to a
payroll
Republican
tax on the upper income, I believe, right?
No, payroll tax on all companies. He wants to institute a statewide auto tax. He wants to raise the income tax. He wants to do exactly the same of what hasn't worked over the last 8 years. A lot of people are seeing through it, and they're saying common sense would tell you we need to do the reverse.
All right. We'll see what happens. Bob Stefanowski, thank you very much. Again, we did reach out to his opponent.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you.